Well, welcome everybody to our third Beyond Maintenance panel discussion. Thanks for joining us. Let us know in the chat if this is your first one, if you've been following us for a little bit. We had a little hiccup last month and didn't get recorded, but for sure it's recording right now. So you'll be able to watch this again if you have to jump out early or share it with your teams. Hopefully we provide enough value for you to do so. A quick housekeeping things. We're going to answer questions as they pop up. So please feel free to use the questions in the questions panel, and we'll watch that throughout the hour and answer all the questions you have. Also, please take a minute. Liz is going to drop the link to our user summit. That will be November 3rd and 4th in Rapid City. And we hope to see everybody there. You don't have to be a user to attend. And we're running the first 50 tickets sold is a $50 discount. So that's fun too. We'll have a lot of everything maintenance discussions and some fun activities too in true Property Meld style. That being said, we're going to dig into running remote maintenance with your teams and different options around that. With over 9 million open jobs across the United States right now, the struggle's real when it comes to finding good talent and hiring affordable team members for your PM business. And I have two amazing panelists here who are going to share their experiences with this and they've mastered over the last few years. So I'm going to let Joni Wolfswinkel introduce herself.
Hey everyone. Hi, Madison. Thanks for having me on here today. So my name's Joni Wolfswinkel. I am the broker owner of two franchises, one in Houston, Texas, and the other in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Between the two locations, I manage about 1,500 doors. And I have 18 virtual assistants that work somewhere in my company. Specifically for maintenance, I have 5 in our maintenance department. So we've been using them for about 5 years. And like you said, it's been difficult to, find great talent. So, the virtual assistants have been great and have helped us tremendously throughout the year. So.
Awesome, thanks. Our next panelist is Todd Orscheid. You're going to go ahead and introduce yourself, Todd.
Thank you, Madison. Appreciate it. Todd Orscheid with Revolution Rental Management. We are in Atlanta, was our primary market. Now we're down in Orlando, up through Daytona Beach in Central Florida. After our acquisition last June, I guess we came into this market. So 2 markets now. We've been using virtual assistants in different ways for probably about 4 years now. On maintenance specifically, we've been using a call center for a long time, but we brought all of our maintenance coordinators to Mexico about 2 years ago. So we've got 2 full-time maintenance coordinators now in Mexico, plus an operations manager there who oversees them. So basically our entire maintenance coordination operation is offshore at this point, except for our call center, which is in Vegas, which is also outsourced.
Excellent. So a lot of experience here, and I'm just going to dig in and start asking some questions and build the conversation. So Todd, when you talk about remote team members, virtual assistants in the property management community, what are some of the most common misconceptions that you hear from people who haven't yet jumped into this?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception is people think that remote team members, VAs, whatever you want to refer to them as, they could be full employees. So everybody kind of thinks of them as VAs and they think, oh, they can just handle back office, basic data entry, that kind of stuff. They don't think they can be customer facing, which is just a huge misconception. Our entire customer facing operation right now is out of Mexico. So they can be just as good, if not better, I would say, than employees you have in the United States. But that's probably the biggest misconception I hear out there. People also think, oh, people know when they call in that they're talking to someone in another country and they don't like that. And that hasn't been our experience at all. You know, for one thing, most of our VAs lived in the United States for a period of time. So even though they're in Mexico, a lot of them went to high school in Texas or in Phoenix. You know, they're, you know, in many ways, just as American as anybody we would hire here in the United States. So there's a lot of misconceptions out there that just aren't reality.
Absolutely. How about you, Joni? Did you hear?
Yeah, I think the biggest two that I get is number one, the misconception of remote team members or virtual assistants aren't reliable, and I also get that, and me included, like we feel like they have to be local, in order for them to work for you, which obviously we found that that's not the case. And we were forced to, during the pandemic, to, work remotely. So those are probably the two misconceptions. I think that as long as you treat them like your regular employee and part of your team, you're going to be successful. It's all about really, training up front, setting that expectation and holding them accountable, just like you would your regular employee. So if you just follow that, you're going to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I sat in a roundtable masterminds. I think you were in on that one too, Todd, at PMMCon, and talking about the different, I had no idea myself that you guys do different things like team building stuff, just as you with your remote teams, as much as you do with your internal or would with your internal teams, right?
Absolutely. It's crucial. Go ahead, Todd. You can talk first if you like.
No. It's that's absolutely right. I mean, we do a daily stand-up meeting every morning, get everybody on the call. For a long time, we had everybody on Zoom all day in Mexico, just so it could be like they were in the office. You could walk into the next room. We just had it up on the big screen in the conference room, and you could walk in and talk to them just like they were in the office. We also make sure they're on our EOS meetings. So we do a weekly, anybody who's familiar with the book Traction, EOS, we do a weekly level 10 meeting. People in Mexico are on that call just like they would be if they were employees in the office. So, it's even though you might refer to them as remote team members or VAs, whatever the terminology is, as far as we're concerned, they're just employees. They show on our website like a Revolution employee does who's in the United States. It's no different as far as we're concerned.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And the kind of same thing for myself and my company. So we structure it in mornings. We have our morning huddles. So our entire organization at 9:38, huddle in. It's kind of the first 15 minutes of the day. We go over, priorities for the day, stucks, and of course, good news. And then it's about holding them accountable. We do KPI Wednesdays. We look at, if we're in the red, why are we in the red? And that's going to be our goal for the week. Let's go ahead and get it to yellow or green. And then we also do workshops. We do weekly workshops on Thursdays, maintenance workshops. And, each week is differently, like we're during hurricane season. So we're going over our protocols for that. So it's all about, training them and again, setting that expectation.
Awesome. I did want to say too, real quick, Joni, you actually are running your own VA company, and we're going to go ahead and drop the link for that for everybody in the chat as well.
Yeah, and it's True Work Logistics, and basically, so it's all about finding good talent as well, right? And so our recruiters are constantly finding these talent, and then we're going to a lot of them actually work for my company and train, in the maintenance department and through Property Meld. That way, when we have companies that want to hire virtual assistants, we're ready for them to kind of onboard them. Of course, you're going to have your own processes and whatnot, but at least they get a good foundation of property management, of customer service, the knowledge of property management.
Awesome. So cool. So it's great to have that insight from not just utilizing it yourself, but helping other people implement as we move through this. So I think it's when people are looking at whether to do this or not, the first thing that comes to mind is the cost savings. Like that's the big value prop. I can hire the same amount of employees, a great quality employee, for a much cheaper price. And I want to dig into, is that something that you guys, that cost savings, are you experiencing that right out of the gate? Or is there some upfront costs that you had to navigate through before you started to really reap the benefits of making this transition? And like either one of you can answer this one. I guess I just instead of
Want to
going
go first, Todd, or do you want me to?
No, you go for it, because I'm not actually not familiar with how your model works. So it'd be kind of interesting to see how True Work Logistics does it, as far as, whether there's upfront costs and that sort of thing. So I'd kind of
Yeah, and so there is obviously like a processing fee, but we just charge the one processing fee. Doesn't matter how many VAs you onboard at once, and so that's really the only initial cost. Out of the gate for us, we saved tremendous amount. We used to have 4 on-premise maintenance coordinator, and so our cost per door was almost 300. When we went to the virtual assistant model, we have now 5 remote team members and then 1 lead that kind of manages them and holds them accountable, does the training and all that. And our cost is 134 per door. So we saw that immediately, and really we're able to provide them better customer service because we have more people helping, and then it also allows our leader to do things that's going to grow the business rather than stuck in the weeds of trying to just keep up. It's out of the gate we saw that cost savings.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty universal for everybody who deals with outsourcing, internationally. You're going to get huge cost savings. But when you look at the cost savings, it's not just in the amount of money that you're saving, like Joni said there, cutting it more than in half, which is huge, but you're also getting usually a much higher quality of employee for that price. So you're paying a lot less, but you're getting a lot more for it. So, for example, for us, the first person we hired, I believe, from any position in Mexico was our maintenance coordinator. His name is Luis. He's incredible. He's been working for us for a couple of years now. He has a bachelor's degree, I believe, in environmental engineering, a master's degree in some other form of engineering, and he's currently working on his PhD. So, that's the quality of person you can get. And of course, he went to school here in the United States and then moved back to Mexico. So, you can get someone like that for 1/3 of the cost of what you pay for just somebody out of high school in the United States. So, it's the quality combined with the cost savings is just incredible. And now that employee who was originally hired as a maintenance coordinator is now our director of operations. So he's overseeing all of our other people. So, and by the way, I pay him for that position less than I would pay a receptionist in the United States. So, that's really, what you're looking at in cost savings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that like going back to what we we're talking about, like with misconceptions, like these aren't just like entry level, like data entry positions. Like you're running your director of operations through, like that's a huge like like a benefit to doing that, and that cost saving on top of it. That's awesome. We were talking about, you both mentioned 2 additional, so the quality of employee and customer service as like additional benefits beyond the cost savings. What are some other things that you see? Are there anything others that kind of stand out that like this is a no-brainer because this?
Well, just recently, so they're also vital during times of natural disasters. We have hurricanes and obviously storms now, ice freezes here to Texas, and so there was a period of time where actually we had like 350 properties that had busted pipes in the last freeze, and our current employees couldn't get to work. We had no power. Literally, our remote team members was able to, for the most part, run the business, and we didn't miss a beat. So I think during those times, they're vital.
Mm-hmm.
I would say something else I would point out is, you're hiring people who are bilingual. So, this is a big deal for both me and Joni. Being down in Texas and Albuquerque, I'm sure it's a big deal also. Lots of tenants are Spanish speakers. So just by default, by nature, if you're hiring people from Mexico, from Central South America, they're able to help with that. So, my tenants in Florida who don't speak English very well call into the office, they're speaking to someone who speaks their first language. So, that's a huge benefit.
And then also the vendors, a lot of our vendors don't speak English as well. So that really helps when they're coordinating maintenance with the vendors. I know there's times where I have to get one of our remote team members to translate for me, so yeah, for sure.
That's like with all the benefits, it seems like it's obviously a no-brainer, but there's got to be challenges that you face around there. And two that kind of come to mind is communication and transparency. Like, thank goodness for Zoom and everything that we've learned, like in the last year, it's become very commonplace. But beyond that, are there different like toolings or what's processes that you have in place that are like very key to overcoming whatever the challenges that you face?
Yeah, so we hire our VAs through Anaquim, and so they have basically the structure in place where the employee is logging in every morning to software. I believe it's called Hubstaff, if I remember right, which is basically monitoring their key presses, their mouse movements, their screen. So at any time, if I needed to log in and see what somebody was doing, I can. I can see exactly what screen is on their computer at any point in time. I don't need to do that. Honestly, everybody pretty much works much harder than any other employees I've ever had has worked. So that's not really an issue, but it's always a possibility there. It does provide that transparency, and the employee knows that. So I mean, they're fully aware that you can check up to see what's going on at any time. So I mean, it provides that level of transparency. And of course, we also have Zoom, just like what we're doing here. You always have that ability. We're also on Slack, so I can just click a button and do a video conference on Slack at any time during the day. It's just so easy nowadays to do this that it's really a non-issue.
Yeah, along those lines, we also use Hubstaff. So anytime there's if a client has a question about a virtual assistant, then we can just print off what their keystrokes and what they've been doing. And again, KPIs, I mean, numbers don't lie. So if they're not working, their numbers will show. And it's just all about training. And then something that we do is at the start of the day, our remote team members will give us or give their leader like what they plan to do that day. And then at the end of the day, they'll give them what they completed for that day. So it's just an extra, keeping them accountable.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So like we were talking like percentage of what they do, like Todd, the majority of yours is just are you managing other things besides maintenance with your remote, the whole process?
Pretty much everything at our company that doesn't require boots on the ground is handled in Mexico at this point, or some of the back office stuff is handled in India. So, if it can be done by computer or phone, it is being done by computer or phone by a remote team member. So, whether it's dealing with owner statements, questions that owners have, repairs, lease admin, preparing leases, doing lease renewals, everything is pretty much done offshore at this point. Honestly, there's no reason to do it in the States, especially right now where, when I am having to go out right now, I'm having to hire a leasing agent, somebody that's actually boots on the ground. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to find somebody that you would actually want to employ right now. Right. So, when it's that difficult, it makes a lot more sense to go offshore and do it.
Yeah. Something I didn't mention as well is that we actually also, we used to use an after hours call center, to do our maintenance coordinating after hours. We just got rid of that altogether and created our own call center. So we have, 3 RTMs that work after hours. And we feel we have more control over it, because before is like we were running into issues where the after hours line wasn't assigning the work orders to the appropriate vendors, or, they didn't know what was an emergency and what wasn't. And so we'd come into the office and find, oh my God, like, why didn't they send this to the vendor? And so we just have more control over it. And then also what's nice is that because there's not always, emergencies, right? And so they're able to do things at night, such as clean up the melds. They're also able to review inspections, do other things. That way, my main lead, when she comes in the morning, she's able to do things, that she wouldn't otherwise. Mm-hmm. So, and man, that saved us a bunch as well, because the cost of having a third party was just as much, really. Mm-hmm.
So when we're
Mind if I
talking,
ask her a
Oh,
question real quick,
yeah,
Madison?
go for it.
Sorry
Yeah,
to act like a moderator here, but I'm kind of curious.
no, that's fine.
How difficult has it been for you to find people to work after hours? It
Not
might-
at all, not at
Really?
all. And yeah, it has not been an issue at all. Yeah.
Excellent.
Look like someone had the same question, so good thing you asked. So when we're talking about this and utilizing, obviously this is the rest of your tech stack is really important to this. Your accounting system, you're both here because you both use Property Meld, but that is having that, using the right tooling along with that is probably pretty crucial, I'm assuming. What other tools beyond Property Meld in your accounting are you using? You'd mentioned Hubstaff. Are there other things that are like best practice, no brainer?
Well, I would say, your primary property management software, I think, Joni, I think you use Rent Manager. Am I?
No, you're gonna beat me up for this, but I use Appfolio.
Really? Oh, wow. I'm surprised. Okay. So yeah, I mean, one of the things I tell people to use is, if you're going to use Appfolio, have something like the full open API from them, so you can connect it to something like Property Meld. I mean, that's our big thing, is we've connected Propertyware to Property Meld, which makes it so much easier for us to be able to, it just automatically pushes the photos, the notes, everything goes right into Propertyware, so that it's really easy for us to just manage everything from one place and not have to do double data entry. So, that's
Right.
one thing that I always recommend to people, is try to connect your softwares if you can. Try to use stuff that has an open API. And it's insanely cheap to hire somebody on Fiverr or Upwork to do the developer work to connect these softwares if you need to. Or in the case of Property Meld, they've already got it set up to connect to some software. So, I mean, try to do that as much as you can to save yourself work instead of doing double entry.
Yeah, and a quick shameless plug on this too. I don't know how many of the viewers are Appfolio like Joni, but we've just launched our Appfolio Sync tool. So if you're using Appfolio and you've even thought of Property Meld, we don't have an open API that doesn't make the process as simple as with what Todd does with Propertyware. But our new sync tool, have Liz drop a link to our PDF on that kind of explains how that works. So we're finally able to eliminate that double entry. And
Nice.
so we're rolling it out to our current customers, Joni. So you'll probably be,
I was gonna say, that's awesome.
yeah, you'll know about this
My
very
team will
soon.
love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So a quick question from the audience for Joni, and I'm excited this question got asked because I am familiar with your KPIs because we've done some case studies and conversations. But
Yeah.
what KPIs are you tracking from your remote maintenance coordination? Any specific examples?
Yeah, so we track response time, of course. We want to, 24 hours is kind of our key there. Melds that are 10 plus days old, because we don't want them going over that. And then also melds 30 plus days and completed melds within the last 7 days.
Awesome. Okay,
If I could just add one to that, because we track those, but there's one other one that I picked up actually from Ray. Ray was giving a talk, I think an IMN or something, if I remember right. He said he noticed that one of the big things was HVAC and plumbing response time. And if it wasn't done within 4 days, he said that the rating on those melds was awful. So we started tracking that. Any meld for HVAC or plumbing, we track those separately, just as their own. You can set it up in Property Meld as a separate filter, and we track that as one KPI, just so we have basically a higher standard on those than we do on other work orders.
That's great. I'm gonna write that one down.
Yeah, and launching next week, I believe, is what I've been told, is your dashboard is going to make tracking that. There's an update to the dashboard that's going to make tracking that even easier. So, and it looks really nice too. So
Nice.
tracking those KPIs are so important, and having that oversight into your remote team gets that peace of mind and knowing that everything's working the best it can, for sure. So let's dig into implementation. So if you were going to do this for the first time, like what first steps should I do if I'm ready to kick off with a remote team?
I would say first hire a company that knows, how to find the right talent. I think that's key here is anybody can do this, but it's about finding the right talent and the best fit for you. So, you want somebody that's going to fit your culture, of course. And then we use and I'm sure Todd used something similar to this, but we use the predictive index, which, how does the employee act, and what's their working styles? Are they going to take initiative? Those type of things, because of course all of us like to hire based on emotion. Oh, I think that person looks great, or is a lot like me, and you hire them and you find that that's not what you expected. So I think using a tool like the predictive index would be key as well. And then we train our remote team members for 2 weeks before we put them in their position. So we have an online library with a bunch of mailed training videos and courses and tests that they can take. And of course, shadowing the main coordinator to really get them familiar. So that way we're starting them off on the right foot.
Yeah, one of the things I hear a lot of people say is that they don't know how to get their procedures in. Because I mean, obviously, before you hire a VA, you have to have procedures for what you're going to have them do. If you don't have that stuff taken care of, it's just going to be a mess. So everybody says, well, I can't hire my first VA because I don't have my procedures written down. So what am I supposed to do? And what I tell people is, well, hire your first VA to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Sit on a Zoom call with them and show them what you do all day, and then they'll write it down and put it into procedures for you. So, I mean, that's what I did. I found someone on Upwork who was actually really lucky. I found someone who had worked for All Property Management in the past, and he knew the industry, so he was able to write our procedures really easily. So just hire a VA to do that, and then once you have that done, then you can start hiring the other people to do those procedures. And just like Joni, we use online training software. We use a software called Talent LMS, which is basically a computer-based training system. I like it because it's basically the same thing we did at the airlines when I worked there. Everything was computer-based training. It works great. It's very efficient. I don't have to sit in a room and train someone all day. I can give them a login to software, and it takes them through several days worth of training. And then we have them shadow an employee. So, I mean, set up whatever process works for you. There's a million different ways to do it, but, don't let it hold you back that you don't have training set up or that you don't have procedures written down. You can get a VA to actually help you with that stuff. So, that at least gets the ball rolling.
Absolutely. Well, I think, are there any other any other, okay. We have a question. Can you share who's helped you with your process?
So a company I can recommend that does this is Planet Synergy. So, Planet Synergy is a company, they're actually in India rather than Mexico, but they do a lot of virtual assistant stuff for everything from maintenance to accounting to, there's a million different things. So if you just need someone to help you put your processes together and not hire a full-time VA for it, they can help you with that kind of stuff. And then they can also do back office work for you also, that we have them do some stuff in that vein. So that's someone you can go to if you just need to get that kind of basic stuff done.
Awesome. So when we were talking about back to kind of KPIs, did you guys see a shift in your efficiency also when you went, I would assume so, feeling like you were hiring a better, more qualified employee, but there had to have been a significant shift in efficiencies. Do you feel with this too, or?
I mean, we noticed right off the gate that our response times, right out, I mean, we were, before using our virtual assistants, it was like 10 to 20 plus days, 15 days to get a work order closed. And, with our remote team members, we were noticing that we were getting them done within, 3 to 5 days. So something that we noticed.
Yeah, for sure. Todd, a follow-up to the Planet Synergy question. You mentioned a specific person that helped you.
What I'm going to do, because I haven't used, it's been like 3 years since I've used him. What I'll do is I'll drop my email in the chat. Perfect. And then I will check to see if he's still available. And, feel free to email me if you want me to get you some information on that, if I can find out whether he's still around or not.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that. That's great. Well, I think unless there's more viewer questions, we dug into this pretty deep today and learned a lot about like overcoming, like the main thing I learned was overcoming all the misconceptions about what this could be or how to execute this. And I hope that we dropped a lot of information for the viewers to research into as well. So thank you guys so much for joining us and sharing your wealth of knowledge in this topic for sure. This was a great panel.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. I look forward to seeing everybody out there at the actual Property Mill User Conference too. That should be good.
Yes. And I will, Liz, if you want to drop really quick, or our Facebook, we will post a link to all of the recordings for this on our Facebook, and you can see it with the Beyond Maintenance page. We are not doing a Beyond Maintenance panel discussion in October as we're preparing for the user conference at the beginning of November. And that will be a live panel discussion around preventative maintenance and different programs you can put into place for that. So really excited to see everybody live, and that will also be recorded over Zoom as well if you can't make it to the conference. So yeah, lots of little plugs in there, but
Nice.
try to make it not too bad. But all right, thanks everybody.
Thanks. See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.